Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to another Arkansas football recruiting report. That's Otis Kirk. As always, I'm Jacob Morris. Otis, we are still right in transfer portal season. Arkansas trying to figure out how to fill some holes, adding familiar faces. AJ Green came back into the fold, adding in some new faces as well. But the first one we're going to talk about is junior college tight end Jeremiah Beck, not officially signed with the Razorbacks, but a guy the Razorbacks really like, really want a JUCO guy once again, and somebody the Hogs would really like to add to the roster in Morgan Turner's position group.
Yeah, what's crazy right now? The Hogs have signed the number one cornerback. They've signed an All-American offensive lineman. Now they've got a chance to get the number one tight end in junior college, and Jeremiah Beck. He's 6'4", 240, played at Chaffee Community College, caught 77 passes in 2 years, 37 this year, 40 as a freshman. 6'4", 240. I think I said that, but if I didn't, the good thing about him is, Jacob, compared to the other tight ends they've got, he's built more along the lines of a Luke has. He's more of a receiving tight end. They've gotten, the kids they've gotten out of the high school ranks, the portal, have been more the bigger kids. Maybe I'm not saying they can't catch, they can't, but they're more known for their blocking, and whereas this player would be more of a receiving tight end. I think you need a mixture there, and that was where he would really come in good. I think they're going to get him. I talked to him. We talked to twice yesterday, I think it was. I talked his coach and I are friends, and we talked. He's the one who alerted me that about the kid yesterday, and I talked to him twice on the phone, the recruit, and I think he's coming. But I mean, I got the feeling he was coming, but he hasn't announced it yet for whatever reason. But he will begin classes tomorrow, and so coming from California. He in fact he may be flying out here today. Maybe that's why he hasn't announced it. Wait till he gets here and they sign. So, but I feel good about him coming. And like I said, I think it's important because it would offer them. They need another tight end, and it would be a different tight end than what they've gotten with the high school player that we had on here in the tight end from Jaden Pratt from A&M.
Yeah.
And then the returning tight end. So I think that's good, and I feel pretty good about. We'll probably have something by the end of the day on him, Jake. I'd be surprised if we don't have something by tomorrow for sure.
Something to keep an eye on for sure. And just tight end, obviously, a position group we knew needed a lot of help in the portal when you talk about losing guys like Varkey's Gums, Ty Washington, as well as Luke has, three guys that have produced at the SEC level, walking out the door in the portal, an area Arkansas needed help a lot. Hey, it's funny, the past couple of months, obviously, we've been so focused on or I guess I should say the past couple of weeks, we've been so focused on the portal. Sometimes, you forget that Arkansas is still working really hard in high school recruiting. And over the weekend, obviously, the Hogs extending a couple offers to high school kids. Tell us about who Arkansas is looking at from that ranks and the prospect day over the weekend.
They had a prospect day, probably about 40 players here, 40. I know that was what they were expecting. Now, there might have been some that didn't make it because of the snow and stuff, but I really feel like most of them made it. The ones I expected all made it, including Ben Congdon from Ohio. He came down 6'8", 285-pound offensive tackle from up there, a 2026 kid. He got offered. A player I really like, Bryson Brown from Owasso, 2027 safety, defensive back, got offered. He's born in Pine Bluff, got strong ties to the state of Arkansas. And goes back to what we've talked about a million times on this show. You go over to Oklahoma and you get in that Tulsa area, Owasso, one of those schools. It seems like every class, every year we talk about Owasso, Union, Jinx, Broken Arrow, Booker T. I mean, they've got kids. It's just a football factory. And you've got to recruit it, and Arkansas has. But Bryson Brown, Kevin Sullivan, tight end out of Kansas City Rockhurst, 6'6", 225 pounds. Got a lot of offers. All these players have a lot. And one locally, if you want to see an impressive highlight tape, click on Braxton Lindsey from Rogers. He's about 6'3", 220, tight end linebacker. Arkansas offered him as a linebacker, but he's also a very good tight end. Got a lot of offers as a tight end. But Braxton Lindsey was offered yesterday. He's got a long list of offers. But if you want to see an impressive highlight tape, his is on X. Just go watch it because you're going to be impressed. And I'm talking about either side of the ball.
Yeah.
He's got his stats there with the highlight, I believe. They posted his stats. He concentrated more on tight end as a junior, but a pretty good Rogers team. He concentrated more on tight end than he did. He kind of played they spot played him on defense, but he was very productive when they put him over. Arkansas liked him as a lineman. When I saw him, he was probably first time I saw Braxton was at an Arkansas camp, maybe, oh God, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I liked him as a linebacker then. I don't think he played tight end that day. If he did, I didn't see it. But I really liked him. I thought he was going to be a natural tight end, a linebacker. But he's grown into a tight end too. But Arkansas offered him as a linebacker. He's a good player, real good player. Like I said, just go watch his highlight. Don't take my word for that. Watch his highlight video. And then there's just so many players in that 2026 class in Arkansas that they've offered, and it's Blair Irvin is another one from Bentonville. Well, did not come to junior. Well, he might have, but he got offered before the junior day. Wide receiver out of Bentonville,
Yeah.
and he's another 6', 170, another elite player in the 2026 class out of Arkansas. Just so many good players in this state in that class, and I think Arkansas's offered. They've got double-digit offers out in that class.
Yeah. Those
Got a few
prospect.
commitments there, and not all of them, but I know one kid's committed to Missouri. And 2 or 3 have committed. The safety at Fayetteville and the offensive lineman at Hot Springs Lakeside have committed to Arkansas. We've had both demo here, but yeah, in fact, we've had Anthony Kennedy who committed to Missouri on here as well. But so, and I'm sure Arkansas will keep trying on him.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot. Again, not to broken record ourselves into oblivion, but that's why you maintain those relationships, because in today's day and age, you never know what's going to come around. But those prospect days are so interesting, just from the perspective of who you can get on campus. And you mentioned even in the snow and everything, Congdon making his way down from Ohio. I mean, that's a guy that has offers from, when you go look at his recruiting page, he's got offers from Miami, Florida State, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Missouri, and obviously his size jumps out at you at 6'8". So getting a guy like that from Ohio, of course, Owasso, Rogers, that those guys are going to be a little bit more accessible for those days. But it's great that they were able to get accessible. Yeah, but it's great that they were able to get Congdon down from Ohio.
Yeah, when he made it, I got to figuring most kids made it. You can make it from Ohio with the weather. You can probably make it from any place these other recruits came from. But I know probably. Well, I was getting at about the weather. I know the road crew's done a great job, but sometimes people see that much snow and they think, well, we're just not going to make it, try it this weekend. Didn't realize. I mean, roads were better yesterday. When I got out there, I thought they'd be, to be honest with you, the main roads. So I can see somebody not coming in, but there'll be more junior days, more chances for them to get here. But I do feel like Arkansas had a really good turnout, better than I thought it would be when I got up, what was that, Thursday morning, Friday morning, all that snow, I thought, man, I told another reporter Friday, this thing may get canceled, and it didn't. So it's credit to Sam and the staff and these kids that they were excited enough to get up here and do this. And man, that staff's working hard because they've been tied up with the portal. I mean, I'm worn out from the puddle. I am transferred portal out, and the coach has done a lot more than I have, plus preparing for a bowl game. So I credit to them that they're still going and doing this, because I'm proud I don't have to have the energy to host these kids over there on Saturday.
Yeah. A lot of work, obviously, for this staff, but I have to keep up the high school end of it as well. Hey, let's talk about, you mentioned just the new portal guys as well as the spring enrollees in terms of freshmen beginning classes on Monday. Just walk us through who's going to be on campus for the Razorbacks coming in early for the freshmen, as well as the transfer portal guys starting class tomorrow.
Okay, right now people have asked me, and they've asked me if I've written a story. No, I'm gonna write one tomorrow, because there's still, like I said, the tight end. There's still people may come, so I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to write my story on this. But today, right now, we know of 19 transfers, all 19 that signed. They've been announced. All 19 will be here, plus AJ Green be 20, but 19 they've signed, plus AJ, that would actually be 20. 2 junior college kids, Keyshawn Davila and Bubba Craig. Bubba we had on here, offensive lineman. Those 2 are going to be here at midterm. And then 17 high school kids. They signed 23. The players are not going to, it's going to be easier just to tell people who's not going to be here at midterm and will be here in June. That's Warren wide receiver Antonio Jordan, Nigel Pringle, a cornerback out of Houston area, Lionel Prudhomme, offensive lineman out of Shreveport area, Trent Sellers, a defensive lineman out of Alabama, Marklin Batten, a running back out of Atlanta, Texas, and Reginald Bonds, another defensive lineman out of Mississippi that will not be here. But those 6, the rest of them, everybody else is going to be here, including the 2 quarterbacks. People asking about them; they're both here. Well, everybody but those. So it's going to be, looks like 2 defensive linemen, a defensive back, a running back, offensive lineman, and a receiver not going to be here. The rest of them, they're going to be out there in spring football. So there'll be a chance to see most of these kids. And like I said, this is probably going to grow by 1 by tomorrow with Jeremiah Beck. And it could possibly be somebody else. I mean, you never know. I mean, kids make the last minute decision. I do know that everybody who visited Arkansas out of the transfer portal has made a decision. There's not kids that visited, they're still hanging out there.
Yeah.
All the official visitors, they've made it. Now, all of them didn't come here, obviously, but they've all made a decision. So I don't expect these surprises there. But you never know when you might get a late transfer. Well, I mean, now it'd been rumored about AJ for a couple of weeks, and I brushed it off. I just thought it was silliness because I just said not happening, and it did happen, you know. And it's kind of like I got tipped when Bobby got fired that time, and the morning John L was hired, I got tipped that morning, and I said, oh, I don't believe that for 1 minute. And that afternoon, about 3 o'clock, they announced John L. Smith, 2 o'clock, whatever. Well, I had that morning and just brushed it off. I said, you're an idiot, man. Don't give me that kind of scoop. And I could have had the scoop on it, but I just brushed it off as silliness. And it's the same way with AJ Green. I mean, you know, so I guess I need to start listening to these fans. They probably know more than I do, which not much, but it's, you know, it's credit to them. And not that I know anything, but it does pay to listen to people, I guess, at times, because there's been times I haven't. If I had, I'd probably looked a lot better.
Live and learn, you know, you never know with that stuff.
Well, just I couldn't believe John Allen. And
Yeah.
well, AJ Green, it just did. What I was told is AJ's coming back as a walk-on as a defensive back. If they just told me as a running back, you know, I would have probably believed it. But as a defensive back, and I still don't know. Somebody told me last night he's going to play running back. So
Yeah, it seems like that's a bit up in the air, but it seems like it's kind of it
Right.
started out as that, where it was this idea where he was going to be a walk-on defensive back, and now it seems a little. It's still not confirmed. It seems a little bit more like he's going to be
Right.
in that running back room, which makes sense with the kind of depth issues that they have.
Well, I said on X yesterday, Jacob, or Saturday, well, yesterday was it? Yesterday or Friday one. I put on there, baby, both. He still won. He may be the best running back in that running back. I love AJ Green.
Yeah.
I thought he should have played more when he was here. And this week when that came out, I said he may. I think it was Friday. I said he may still be. He'd probably be best running back in that room. That's not a knock to Braylon or anybody else. I'm just saying, or Mike Washington or Rodney Hill or anybody. But I'm just Tyrell Reed. But I'm just saying this kid's good.
Yeah.
That's not a knock on anybody. I'm saying AJ's that good. I loved him as a running back. I remember when he had that touchdown run in the Liberty Bowl against AutoZone Liberty Bowl against Kansas. Miss Has messaged me, text me, and said we saw that in track in high school. You know, when he ran track over at Union or played football at Tulsa Union, played Bixby. You know, yeah, I mean, because he just left people over in Liberty. But everybody had the angle on him, and all of a sudden he just turns the jets on and outruns everybody in the end zone in that Kansas game. Yeah, and I never forget Luke's mother texted me about that. Said they've seen that a lot of times. So yeah, it happens, and so yeah, he's a good player. It's good. Hey, wherever they play him, it's good to get AJ back, and he'll help them. I mean, I really think he will help them wherever he plays. Like I said, I thought he should have played more when he's here, but I'm not the coach, so I'll leave that up to Jimmy Smith back then and Sam and those guys. But he was a good player. I like him a lot. I think he's really good.
Yeah. No, I think obviously the Liberty Bowl run and then the 30-yard touchdown he had against Texas, I think, are the two that stick out to people. But just I think those two runs are important when looking at AJ Green, also from the standpoint that it just shows he's a different type of back than Braylon, right? So he gives you a different addition in the backfield, and also we saw it this year with injuries, with the portal and everything else. You just never know how that room is going to shake out. So it's just good to have an extra body. And I think more than just an extra body, like he's a guy that's done it at Arkansas before. So I think that was a good pickup. But hey, speaking of kind of late portal pickups, you described a little bit earlier how everybody who's made a visit has made a decision. Talk to us about the last kind of 3 that happened after the bowl game, including, I guess, 4, including Green. But the last couple here for the Razorbacks as they've kind of started to put a bow here on the cycle.
Yeah, you know, they kind of brought these kids in, and most of these 3 told me they were going to take other visits, you know, and except for Wooden. Caleb Wooden pretty much told me he was coming, or he did tell me he was coming the day he was here. He took a while to announce it, but he finally did. 6'1", 192-pound free safety, started for Auburn, had 3 tackles against the Hogs. Marcus Dummerville believe it or not, this kid started for LSU in 2021 against the Hogs on the offensive line. He came from Maryland, but he originally played at LSU. 6'5", 310. Wooden 6'1", 192. And then Ishmael Sissy, get this, he's 6 foot 180. And I know I've beaten this to death on X and social media and Hogville, but he's 6 foot 180 and squats 550 pounds. I mean, he is strong, guys. This kid is super strong. Good pickup for him. Very, as you would expect, being from Stanford, very intelligent player. Originally from Denver. He was down here. It was a little cold that weekend. He said, "Don't bother me. I'm from Denver, you know." And I told him, "Yeah, one of my sons lives in Denver." And he tried to get me to move up there, and I said, "No way." But yeah, so it was actually warm to him down here. But yeah, those are the three. I think we've talked about Courtney Crutchfield and Omega Blake. We talked about them before, so that would be the last two. But yeah, they've really took some steps in that wide receiver room in the last 2 or 3 weeks, getting Crutchfield, Omega Blake, and Sissy to go with the two that signed early. But Dummerville can play anywhere on the offensive line, probably guard or tackle, and then wouldn't be a safety. He was really impressed in that Auburn game when they played Arkansas. He was blown away by TJ Metcalf that game, Jacob. He was really impressed. He said, and that's the position I'll play. I think that helped Arkansas that TJ had that big game.
Massive game.
He saw how Arkansas uses his free safety, and he was just licking his chops. He said, "Man, that's my position." And TJ did that, and he thinks he can do that. So hopefully he can. And I like Caleb. I like all those kids from the portal. I like them all. I think they did really well there. They'll get more. Depending on how it goes, they're going to sign another receiver, or maybe a tight end. Depends on, I don't know if they get back, if they'll sign another portal tight end or not. They are going to get a defensive tackle out of the portal, possibly a defensive back or two. A lot depends, though, too. This could change during spring drills if somebody leaves they're not expecting. Then, it's easy to say they're not going to take a running back or they're not going to take a quarterback, but 2 or 3 left at that position, then they would. So yeah, right now, that's how it stands right now. I'm just telling you, as it stands right now, look for another receiver, defensive tackle, and possibly a defensive back too. They're pretty full. The numbers are there. To get other players, somebody's going to have to leave. So people are going to freak out when players leave and want to know what's wrong. There's nothing wrong. They're going to have to leave to get new players. If they want new players, somebody's going to have to leave. So the 85 limit, Arkansas is up against it. I'm just telling you right now, they're up against it.
Yeah. That's what's kind of, you talked about being as tired as you are from the portal, and that's kind of just the looming thing that everybody forgets is we got another week coming up in the spring where, you could have not a mass exodus. It was much smaller last year, regardless of what people thought going in, but still there will be some movement there. You made a great point on, I didn't even think about that, with Wooden watched Metcalf have that game where he had 2 picks, he had a forced fumble, he had a million tackles, and he probably looked at that and said, man, I can make some moves. And, you wrote in your article when you were describing him.
He caught that, he caught that. Caleb did the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Yeah, it impressed Caleb. And so, that's something you just never know. Recruiting's crazy. You never know what's going to impress someone. You're in a game like that and you're not thinking about, well, maybe some Auburn starter will be impressed and switch over to Arkansas. That's exactly what happened. So it's crazy, man. I mean, it's hard to figure this stuff out. You can't. You go crazy trying to figure it out. But just know that everything matters, I guess, Jacob. Everything in recruiting matters. I mean, you got a game where you're beating Auburn and safety's going off and there's free safety sitting over impressed with what's going on. Hey, he's mad because he got beat. He said, I asked him, first I said, did you like that? And he said, no, we got beat. And I said, I didn't mean that. I mean, did you like how TJ played? I'd ask him, I said, that's a dumb question. I didn't mean, did you like the game? Because I knew he didn't, but did you like how TJ played? And he said, yeah. And that's when he told me that stuff. Yeah. So, I kind of asked a dumb question at first. I shortened it. Didn't mean it the way it came out. But anyway, and the one thing I will add in this spring deal, one thing people need to keep in mind, you can't sign another SEC player in the spring portal.
Yeah.
You can now. Yeah. You could in this portal, and they have signed some. I mean, they've signed, Wooden, and they've signed Crutchfield. They've signed others too, but you can't in the spring, but you can sign anybody outside the SEC.
Yeah, that is true. It's a difference in the spring portal. Last thing on Wooden, you wrote in your article just about it was once again just another win for this defensive staff. How he told you, it's a guy that Coach Woodson, and
Well,
And T. Will just once again making an impact in a recruitment. This staff over and over again seems to have success doing that.
he said that it's not everything. He said with NIL and the transfer portal, everything's not real right now.
Yeah.
And he said those Arkansas coaches are real. And I thought that was a really good quote. And it speaks well of T. Will and Woodson that he would say that because he said this kid, this is not a younger player. It's goggy eyed, you know, big impressed with the facilities, all this. This kid knows what he wanted and found it here. But he said, I they everything's not real in NIL and portal and stuff like that. But he said those two guys are real, and through Sam Pittman in too. So I mean, yeah, it's impressive for those coaches. They've made that kind of mark on a kid. It certainly gives you a chance to get somebody when you go in there recruiting and you bring them in and they trust you in this day and age because it's smart. A lot of these kids in the NIL, this portal know that they don't believe everything these coaches tell them at some schools, you know, and I heard that from one of the kids that came in. Now, I'm not going to name the school or the coach, but man, he and his parents spent 30 minutes trashing the crap out of the school and coach he just came from. I mean, people say, man, they trashed Sam Pittman. I said, yeah, you want to hear some trash and come with me and listen to some of these guys coming. This one school, this kid and his parents, they trashed the coach. I mean, said he would tell lie when the truth would make a better story, you know. I mean, that's out there, man. And I know it's every school and every coach, but man, but it is good to hear that from Caleb Wooden saying that everything's not real and these guys are real. Talk about Woodson, if you will.
Yeah. That defensive staff has won some real recruitments over the past couple of years. Did it again with Wooden there. Portal season's still ongoing. I know you'll continue to monitor it, and we'll be back next week to talk about it. But that's going to do it for this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week.